a lot of the mold has also been in the units themselves here.
Okay, well, here's what we got to do before we go, hit a bunch of panic buttons. Is we definitely need to check out, I'm a mother, I'm a grandmother. I want to get to the source, and I don't really know without knowing anything what that is. I mean, do you have it in your room?
Well,
I'm just trying to understand what's going on here.
Yeah, I mean, probably the best way for you to understand would be for me to, or for you to review the crayon box dialogue that started on, well, actually, the issue's been going on for a year now. We have an employee that actually reported this a year ago. But if you look at if you can get a copy of the crayon box thread, which started on January 26th, and is current up to 13 minutes ago, you'll see 17 messages.
Are these facts or are they just thoughts? I mean, that's what I never know.
Well,
I mean, I'm just trying to understand.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. Are they facts or are they thoughts? They're actually physical experiences. So they're not really, I'm not sure they fit in so clearly into either category, but, for myself.
Here's what I'm trying to, I was just in San Antonio. I was staying in a hotel. I mean, I have to tell you, it's a damp environment. I live in a damp environment. So, I'm not trying to be a pain, but I have a house that I don't live in during the week. I go there on the weekends and I have to deal with the bugs and the mold and anything that comes up. So I'm not trying to make light of this. I'm not. Believe me, I'm not. But I mean, we also got to get it resolved. I had little rodents in my attic. I mean, it's all about getting all these things resolved. That's a real big deal to me to get it resolved too, and then go from there as well. So I'm just trying to understand. Believe it or not, I talked to a remediation guy on the mold thing, and believe it or not, household vinegar is the best thing. I had no idea. I thought it was bleach. It's not. Apparently the acidity, I guess it's called acid, the amount of acid in alkaline and vinegar, household vinegar, is the best thing you can do. I didn't know that before, but that apparently does do it. So, okay, so now we've got sort of two things. I'm trying to understand, and no kidding, we sent Dale's on, of course, his father's funeral's tomorrow, and we sent him a note this morning. We sent Mitch and Matthew a Hatch a note. I mean, we got to figure out what this is all meaning, because this is something has changed, because this was not so pronounced ever before, and I don't know what's making it more pronounced all of a sudden. That's all I'm trying to say.
Right. Well, I guess what I wanted.
An incident here and there is not uncommon for anything, and these bugs that are flying around relative to bronchial and relative to, man, in the U.S., I don't know if you've been reading about all this, how people are in the hospitals, and it's just been a very wicked year for bugs. I mean, I'm talking about now health bugs, so there's just a lot of stuff flying around with bronchial, a lot like you guys have been seem to having. I mean, we have it right here in our office. I mean, my grandchildren's school, it's just a lot of bugs right now for some reason. I'm talking about flu bugs and bronchial bugs and respiratory bugs and virus bugs.
Yeah,
So anyway.
Well, I mean, Glenda, all I can really do is tell you that the flag was raised a year ago, and I have not slept in about 3 months.
Well, the flag, like I said, one instance or an instance now and then. It's not unusual in an environment like you all have. It's not unusual in a water community like we live in here on the Gulf Coast. So, It happened in my son's house. I mean, it's just not unusual in these kind of environments to have certain things happen. So, but now it's like everybody's, I don't know. I mean, that's what I'm trying to understand. What is it that's making it much more pronounced, it seems like?
Well, it really, I mean, it was an issue a year ago. It was fairly pronounced at that point. And the thing is, if you can...
A year ago.
Well, if you look at this...
Because I thought it was resolved. That's why I'm completely perplexed right now.
No, it's never been resolved. In fact, if you were to go back and talk to some former employees, you remember the employee Philip? You remember Philip? He left he left in the late part of December.
Uh-huh.
He had the same problems.
Louis?
Yeah, Louis Philip. He wasn't, or Philip, whatever his name was.
That's not a year ago. That's what I'm trying to say. That's not a year ago, though.
No, but I'm just, well, no,
Okay.
well, there's two.
Is his, and I don't know. I don't know if anybody's in that. I thought it was cleaned and remediated. This is where I'm coming from. I'm just trying to, because his room was, they're completely supposed to be, that's what we pay for, to have them completely redone, you know, and made over when somebody leaves. That's why I'm completely crazy right now.
Well, there's a couple things. First off, it did come up a year ago, and I know that half a dozen teachers discussed it on Crayon Box. But then again, the reason I mention Philip is that he recently left, and he went through the same problem where he had respiratory problems, he wasn't sleeping, he had fatigue. And so I just encourage you, if you can look at this Crayon Box dialogue, or if I can cut and paste it to you, you can hear.
No, I got it. I mean, I'm trying to get to the bottom. I'm like, you know, I was married to an attorney for a lot of years. I mean, you try to figure out what, why, when, how, why, you know?
Well, that's right. I mean, I guess, and one thing I pointed out to Sandra this morning is when Mr. Chapman was here recently, this came up in the town hall meeting. Well over half a dozen students addressed their health concerns, and I know that day he had indicated that he was meeting with the Mishall studio officials and that he was going to discuss that with them, and we had encouraged him to go up to the 4th and 5th floor. Do you see the pictures of the 4th and 5th floor? Because when you look at the building is not inhabitable. I mean, the thing is, you wouldn't, in Florida, this building. And this is something that David Ingram brought up at the town hall meeting. You know, as you may know, he was the senior instructor that recently left from Booz Allen.
Not David Ingram. He's not. He was a Booz guy, and he's not there anymore. I got it.
Right, but he had brought up.
I'm just saying,
he had brought up in the town hall.
You live in London.
Yeah.
You're not living in the U.S. You know, every country has its deal. I'm with you. I got to get guidance from my bosses. This is much bigger than me, and it's much bigger than you, and collectively we got to figure it out. That's all I'm telling me. We do. We have to figure it out. I just don't know.
I mean, the thing is,
I don't know any more than what I'm trying to get from everybody and hear about. Seen it on site. That's all I can do. I've not been there, so I got to get guidance.
Right. I mean, a couple things that I wanted to just bring up to you is that while it's not really a scientific finding or fact, you know, there were many staff that reported that the symptoms either stopped or diminished once they left during their break, and then they reported, after a day or two of being here, that the symptoms then reappeared. We've had a couple of cases of bronchitis. We've got people that are fatigued, like myself, respiratory problems, runny noses, and the thing is, I just don't have that. I mean, I just don't have a history of any of that, and this has been going on for 3 months, and you have to realize that. Like, for example, I've never called in sick, but I've gone to work sick and fatigued many times. I am still doing that now. And the thing is that I just have to request some sick time. I mean, I have to get out of this building. And again, I make that plea because I didn't get out during the break in January. I actually worked a couple days. There was a break in January where people had left. And so I'm really calling today. I mean, I really think that the employees have raised the alarm. I think we did that with Chapman. We've done that on the crayon box. The response we had.
No, I'm sorry. Here's the problem I've got right now. I wish, but I'm not kidding you. Our president is on another telecom, which we always have at this time, and I hopped off to take this call. So I wish I could get him with us now, but he's not available now. So I can't, I don't know. I mean, I'm he's our president. He's Mr. Chapman. He's not Chapman. He's Mr. Chapman. I'll do my best. I've got to be able to understand and
Well, we did.
Know what's going on. I will say this. I've had a huge medical thing. I probably should not be alive today. And I made it because of determination. And I'll tell you the other thing, stress. Earning a living does create stress. There's a certain amount of just living every day that creates stress. So stress is a big deal. It makes you tired, makes you vulnerable, makes your immune system not work so well. And all I mean by that, there's good stress and there's kind of bad stress too. And I get all that. It's not been an easy time for you guys lately. It's not been an easy time with this whole thing that happened with Tom Hayes as well. I mean, this is tough. This is real life tough.
Well, Tom was a good.
It's really difficult.
Yeah, I mean, just to address the stress factor, I think the stress is compounded by the fatigue and the insomnia and the ailments. But, the thing is that if you were to wipe that away, the everyday activities here, there's nothing that stressful about being here. I mean, Tom's death, he came in at the same time as I did. I got to know him very well. It was, yeah, and as a result, I got to know him very well. He was a friend of mine, and it was a huge loss, and totally surprised. But the thing is that I really couldn't correlate that and the fact we didn't have books or we don't have a printer. I mean, there's always going to be those elements that are going to be deficient.
Well, that book thing, it's so wild how many, I can't even explain the hours and hours and hours we've worked to get that through customs. And that's not anything we did wrong. I mean, that's just customs. And so that's what's so hard. I mean, it's just,
well,
I don't even know how to,
But Glenda, what I'm trying to tell you was that wasn't as big of a deal. I mean, the thing is, there's ways around that. I mean, the thing is, we were able to circumvent that. I mean, it's not like anybody dropped in exasperation or, I mean, the thing is that there were ways to mitigate that. And I didn't really, while it was a bummer, there's ways that we got around it and we were able to effectively do our jobs. And so that's not really, I mean, the thing is, I just wouldn't lean on those things. I mean, Tom's death it really did shake my tree, frankly. But I just don't think any of that is really what we're talking about. I think if you look at my posting and my pictures, I think what you'll see upstairs is, if you look at some of the narrative there, it's really, by the time you get to the fourth floor, it's really intoxicating, and by the time you get to the fifth floor, it's unbearable. And one thing we did ask Mr.
What is unbearable? I'm sorry, I'm missing something because I don't know what's unbearable.
Well, by the time you get to the fifth floor, your eyes are watering. You can feel a tightness in your chest, and you'll if you read the narratives of the employees, they kind of get into that. But the thing with Mr. Chapman is that we were anticipating some response from him, because we had asked him to go up to the fourth and fifth floors before he met with Mishall studio officials. And the word that we got from Dale Williams is that the company was thinking of buying some air purifiers that employees would be able to share. So I guess an employee would have one day. Now, the thing is, several employees have spent 500 to 600 SAR on HEPA filters, but and they have reported some benefits from that. But the thing is, it's
And where
not.
do they put those?
Sorry?
Where do those go? I'm sorry.
Well, no, some employees have, some employees have invested in these ionic air purifiers, these HEPA
Oh, I'm with you now.
purifiers, out-of-pocket cost about $500-600 SAR, but for example, several of them have seen some advantage, but they're still sick. I mean, they're still getting sick. We've got 2 employees that have had bronchitis.
No, I'm sorry. I'm not kidding you. Wow. It's just so much. I mean, it's just, I have to talk to my bosses. This
Sure.
is way above my head.
So
Way above.
the thing is that I absolutely, I don't know exactly how to frame this, but I really do need to leave. I mean, I need to get out of this building. And so I am asking to leave. I would like to do that pretty quickly, at least for 10 days. I just have to get out of here. And if, in fact, the symptoms do improve...
You know what you'll have to do is you will have to put this in writing. I mean, I can't... I'm just saying it has to go in writing.
Okay,
So you need to send an email.
Okay,
I mean, I can't... I mean, nothing like this at this level that, we don't... For anybody... any job I've ever had, if you want something like this, you have to put it in writing.
No, and I'm going to. I've kind of started drafting the letter. I just wanted to touch base with you because I didn't want to blindside you with the letter. I wanted to have a chance to speak to you.
Right.
So anyway, thank you for your time, and I will have a letter to you.
I wish I had an easy answer. I do.
I can appreciate that. So do we.
Already. Huh? I'm sorry?
I can appreciate that, and so do we.
I mean, I just don't even know. Very, very frustrating. Because I worked so hard on all this, and then, it's just, that's all I can tell you. I worked incredibly hard. So.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate. I mean, the thing is.
I take it very serious.
Okay. Well, again, I appreciate your time today, and give Mr. Chapman and the rest of the crew our best.
How many students do we have right now? How many cadets?
That's a really good question. Our numbers are a little low. We were talking about that the other day, and I'm sorry I can't address that, but I know that we are running low. We are not as high as we were at one time. We've lost a number of students to Shepherd, but I don't know. Sorry. Mr. Williams would know that.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm just trying to remember. We had a call Thursday, but I can't remember. Okay.
All right. Thank you very much.
Well, yeah. I don't have any real answers right now.
Okay. Thank you, Glenda.
Mm-hmm.
Bye now.